What is the happiness of being loved by a woman? Warning, warning. Brain deposits are creating hands that can bring you. Please prepare tissues. The main feature suddenly you open your eyes. What greets you is that familiar, stunning face and those starry red eyes. Luo Yao is lying on top of you, starkly and bold. One hand caresses your cheek. The other holds a cold, icy dagger. It slowly moves across your chest. This familiar beauty, this familiar aura, this familiar touch, this familiar big bed, you are sure this isn't a dream. Indeed, you've been captured, and your hands and feet are bound with chains. A mix of complex emotions fills your heart. It hurts. Yet you also feel relieved as a tear falls. In the darkness, you see a faint glimmer. Luo Yao pauses. Are you afraid? Why can't you just behave? She asks. Suddenly, you open your arms, trying to embrace the clang. The chains clatter but do not hinder your movement. Your arms tightly embrace this woman, the one who loves you deep. Luo Yao is visibly startled. Then she slowly speaks. Aran, what trick are you playing? Don't even think about it. Tonight, you belong to me alone. Though her words are cold, your embrace deeply satisfies her. This is the first time Ling Ran has actively hugged. The feeling is as addictive as a drug. You nod fervently. I will always belong to you alone, you say. Luo Yao's brows furrow. To escape, you would go so far as to hug her, and even say such insincere words. Didn't you always say that touching her only disgusted you? Luo Yao bitterly smiles, but she doesn't expose Ling Ran's lie. Prove it to me, she said. After saying this, Luo Yao slowly leans closer, just about to speak. But the familiar and domineering sensation on your lips, as oxygen dwindles, you realize this is Luo Yao's test. She's testing your sincerity. Reason is quickly overtaken by feeling the warmth and dominance invading your mouth. For the first time, you actively respond to your hand slowly moves to hold her waist. This action pleases Luo Yao greatly. Luo Yao assumes you're feigning submission, but she doesn't care. Even if it's fake, she's willing to sink into it. She desperately wants to possess her Aran. Luo Yao's heart has already been. You respond actively. Luo Yao feels a slight shock inside. She didn't expect Ling Ran to be. She exerts a little. Luo Yao's mouth fills with the taste of, and you endure the pain on your lips without flinching. A few minutes later, Luo Yao finally lets you breathe again. Luo Yao, I want you, you say, leaving her. The pen in her hand drops to the floor with a clatter. Stars glimmer in her eyes. She even doubts whether she's hearing things or if she's hallucinating. Ling Ran isn't calling her a demon or a she-devil for once. He even says he wants her. Of course I want you. The look in his eyes reveals you're ready to give up to have the woman before you. Give me. You say we're both adult. Naturally, you both understand what that means. Even knowing it's still not true surrender, Luo Yao chooses to believe him. Only because she longs for the authenticity. The two fall into madness. In the past, you saw Luo Yao as a lunatic, a psychopathic demon, an amalgamation of paranoia, cruelty, and ferocity. So you were always terrified, only ever wanting to escape. Now you finally feel what it's like with this demon, accompanied by enchanting music, a night of indulgence. As the morning sun beams in, sunlight streams through the curtain. You slowly open your eyes. The person beside you is coiled around you. She is staring at you, lost. A trace of crimson is left on the white bedsheet. In your previous life, this moment was forced. Back then, Luo Yao's was one of sheer determination to die. You were terrified, so much so that afterward, you didn't notice. Now you understand? This too was Luo Yao's first time. Awake now, Luo Yao's face is expressed, but inside she's terrified. She's afraid that everything from last night, she's afraid her Aran will continue to run. Looking at the peerless beauty in her arm, you feel a surge of emotion. This seemingly harmless and soft woman before is actually a beautiful yet ruthless and vicious woman, a pathological demon who could lose her sanity at any moment. In your previous life, you constantly tried, but in the end, you never succeeded. You recall when Luo Yao first appeared, her first words, "Marry me." However, after you refused, everything spiraled in a bizarre direction. Days turned into years, and 3 years, you realized you couldn't escape Luo Yao's grasp. The more you resisted, the tighter Luo Yao clung. Finally, after you repeatedly confessed to the campus beauty, Luo Yao snapped. She became obsessed with tying you to her, forcing you, possessing you, even tormenting. You and Luo Yao played out a relentless chase, with no escape for you. Another 3 years passed in this madness. Finally, during one of Luo Yao's business trips, an incident occurred. That time, you were deceived by your secret girlfriend into signing a share transfer document. Afterward, Li Ruxui conspired with your adopted younger brother to the rooftop during a fear. The sensation of weightlessness and fear is the sound of a heavy echoes clearly in your ears. After a brief moment of pain, you die. Your father used your suicide note to inherit all your shares in the Suran group. Combined with his own shares, he became the undisputed head of the group. As for you, you became nothing but a wandering, silently watching your scumbag stepmother and treacherous enemies. To avoid trouble, Your father didn't. He hastily buried you in a desolate mountain. Not long after your burial, Luo Yao appeared. She frantically ordered your grave to be dug up. Ridiculously, there wasn't even nor any flowers. She held your mangled corpse, crying her heart out for a long, long time. She couldn't move on. Even as a soul, you were wide-eyed, unable to comprehend why Luo Yao still. Even you were repulsed by your current state. Ah Ran, why won't you listen? Why won't you stay by my side? I'm sorry I didn't protect you. Wait for me. I'll come to join you soon. Luo Yao must have been deeply disappointed. She had your body transported back to Dongtian Manor and then waited quietly. It wasn't long before your scumbag stepmother Lu Yume, your illegitimate brother Ling Jian, and Ling Jian's cousin and lover, Li Rusui, were dragged inside. When they were captured, they were still eating hot pot, and when they opened their eyes again, they were in the man. Seeing this woman, who made the whole world tremble, and each of them shook like a leaf. You killed Aran, you deserve 1,000 cuts. The group looked terrified, and they had no doubts about Luo Yao. Not even a little. The whole world knows this woman is mad and terrifying. Wasn't Ling Ran just a plaything for this crazy woman? Why, even after Ling Ran, is this mad woman still coming after them? Lin Tianba hesitantly speaks. Miss Luo, this is all a misunderstanding. I'm Ling Ran's biological father. How could I have harmed him? Lin Jian, Liu Mei, and Li Ruxui all look equally panicked. The three of them collaborated to kill Ling Ran, but Lin Jian nervously stammers, Miss Luo, this has nothing to do with us. Liu Yuemei hurriedly adds, as his mother, I cared for Ling Ran the most. I'd never harm him. Li Ruxui, terrified, cries, it wasn't me. It wasn't. I'm the woman Ling Ran loved the most. As a soul, you watch all this unfold and bitterly. Lin Tianba didn't participate, but he was certainly one of the people who most wished for you. Unfortunately, you were blind to this during. Only after death could you see your scumbag father. Or perhaps, only after death did you allow yourself to believe. As the wealthiest and most powerful woman in the world, uncovering the truth was laughably easy for Luo. Her voice, cold as ice, cuts through the air. None of you will have an easy death. Luo Yao's words carry infinite menace, and Lin Jian is the first to break. He flips onto the ground and kowtows fury. Miss Luo, I was wrong. I was wrong. It was all these two women's idea. He shoves his mother and Li Ruxi forward. The two women are utterly stunned. This is their beloved son, yet Liu Yuemei hastily reassures him. Son, don't. This woman won't dare do anything to us. This is a society ruled by. Lin Jian wants to curse. Talking about the law to the most powerful and insane woman. Are you mad or am I? Even by the law, isn't murder still a fact? The law is made for ordinary people, not for the elite. Li Ruxui was still in shock. She looked at the bone-cutting steel knife that suddenly appeared. She immediately trembled like, you can't kill me. I am Lin Yuan's most beloved. If you kill me, he will never rest in. Luoyang paused, then madness appeared in her eyes. Yes, if not for this woman before me, her Aran would never have died. What exactly did Aran like about Liu Rux? Was it just this face? And you, always watching, laughed. Angrily laughing, Luoyang gripped the steel, approaching while coldly saying, I'll make you a hostage then. And this face of yours, aren't you so proud of it? Then I'll make sure your face is admired by everyone. With each scream of pain, the four could neither live nor die. By tomorrow, they'd have been slashed to death. After death, their bones were thrown. That became their burial ground. Lin Jian had his body severed by Luo and was thrown into the mat where crocodiles devoured. Liu Yuemei was turned into a grand feast and invited all of the Liu family to join. After the feast, the Liu family collapsed in an instant. Luoyang didn't kill her. Instead, she made her into a living and sent her to South. Li Ruxui's limbs were severed, her tongue cut off, and she was placed in a vase. Every day, she was forced to perform on a Southeast Asian. Her life, sustained by nutritional fluids, she truly became a piece of art, admired by witnessing their tragic. You didn't see Luoyang as cruel. Instead, you felt grateful, and you had always thought of yourself as just a toy Luoyang wanted. You never imagined she would personally have. After finishing all these deeds, Luoyang returned, changed into a wedding dress, and lay down. Inside lay your corpse, dressed in groom's attire. You were powerless to stop her. Your corpse in groom's attire. You were powerless to stop it. Your heart ached deeply. Aran, I'm here to join. I told you, whether in life or death, we're married now. Look, I've put on a wedding dress. Is it beautiful? It's so nice to die with you. When we're in the afterlife, will you look at me more? At this moment, you realized clear how deeply Luoyang loved you. But it was too late. Nothing could go back to the way you wandered the human world, lost for enough. You saw many things you wanted to see. But never again Luoyang's beautiful silhouette, nor her voice tinged with a threatening tone. Until you witnessed Liu Ruxui's death in Southeast Asia, your consciousness sank into endless dark. Why aren't you speaking? Noticing you staring blankly at her, Luoyang frowned slightly. You snapped out of it. The softness in your arms reminded everything still had a chance. This time, you wanted to give all your to the woman in front of you. Luoyang didn't know what you were going to say next. She feared you might say something that would break, so she didn't plan to give you that chance. A fierce kiss, you felt as if Luoyang wanted to devour you. You began to respond. Satisfied with your reaction, Luoyang smiled. She wanted to leave her mark on Lingren. And with a soft whisper, blood trickled from the bite on your shoulder. If what you said last night was a lie, I'll cut off your tongue. You shuddered all over. You knew this madwoman Luoyang could do anything. Don't worry. From now on, I'll only belong to you. Luoyang was very satisfied with Lingran's. Even if you were lying, she would still feel at ease. Then, what did you want to say to Liu Ruxui? You froze, then fell silent for a moment. Yesterday, you were supposed to confess to Liu, though it wasn't the first time. But you knew that after this confession, Luoyang became even more insane. Even taking possession of Luoyang only wanted you. What did she do? Should you give yourself? Yesterday, I met Liu Ruxui to sever ties with her. I never actually liked her. Do you think I'd believe such a low-level lie? All right, I admit I was blind to have liked Liu Ruxui, but now I see clearly that you're the one. I've been searching for my Luoyang seemed to see through Lingran's little trick. Do you think I'll let you go? If you dare to meet Liu Ruxui again, I wouldn't mind turning her into a specimen so she can watch every night as I claim you. You knew Luoyang was capable of this. In your past life, Liu Ruxui suffered, and you also knew how deeply you had hurt Luo, but it didn't matter. Now that you decided to use your life to prove whether you thinking of this, you held. Luoyang enjoyed the feeling of being nakedly entwined. Aaron, call my name. Kiss me. After a long time, you felt completely. After a while, you both fell into it. When you woke up again, Luoyang was no longer by your side. The iron chains that had restrained your wrists, fortunately, it wasn't time or you would have been late. Seeing a small bottle of ointment, you smiled. You knew it was Luoyang's scar-removing ointment, very effective. You had used it many times before. Walking into the bath, you noticed the wound on the corner of your mouth had healed. The bite marks with sharp teeth were still. The scratches on your arms and back were very pronounced. Everything reminded you how crazy the woman beside you was. But compared to your past life, this was already better. She just wanted to leave her unique mark on you. What did she do wrong? Should you give yourself to her? Why not? Thinking of this, you didn't even apply ointment to the wound on your. This mark belonged solely to Luoyang. The door of the villa bedroom opened. The butler Fu Bo hurriedly came in. Young Master Lin, would you like to dine? You had a good impression of Fu Bo. In your previous life, he was the one who tried to advise you. Where is Luoyang? Miss went to the. You nodded and sat at the modest dining table. You remembered how you used to sit as far as possible from Luoyang during meals. For this reason, Luoyang replaced the luxurious dining table with a smaller. Even so, you still refused to sit beside, always sitting across from her, or not eating it. Thinking of this, you shook. Soon you saw the servants bring bowls of soup to the table. Fu Bo gave an amused, knowing smile. This morning, Miss told me to prepare more of this nourishing. It truly startled me. I didn't expect it. Young Master Lin has finally This is a tonic soup Miss prepared for you to replenish. You remained silent. As a grown man, you were embarrassed that your own. All right, maybe a little. But honestly, it was mostly Luoyang's fault. Who could withstand such torment? You began eating unhurriedly. Your phone rang. You glanced at the caller ID, Dad. Immediately, your face dark. After thinking for a moment, you answered the. What now? An angry voice came through. You little brat, I heard you were kidnapped. Do you know how worried and your brother were? They waited a whole day and night, but no rain. What are you up to? You knew this was something Liu Ruxui. In your previous life, you also received, and you told your father that you had been kidnapped by Lu. You even described what had. Who would have thought that confirming Luoyang was responsible? Hung up the phone without a word, as if nothing had happened. You squinted your eyes. Were they thinking about letting themselves die back then? Don't ever talk to me like that again. Dang, old man. Lin Tiamba on the other end of the phone, as if he couldn't believe what you just said. Nearby, Lin Jian immediately whispered, Dad, maybe brother was really kidnapped. He didn't want to drag you into it, so he pretended to have a bad relationship with you. Lin Tiamba suddenly realized it must be that way. Otherwise, why would my son be so rude? Thinking of this, he felt a little touched. Son, after you die, Dad will give you a grand funeral. Xiaoran, Dad was just too anxious. Although I can't redeem you now, you can ask your captors what else they want. If it's possible, Dad will do it, as long as they leave you a whole corpse. You laughed angrily, your chest filled with frustration. Who said I was kidnapped? I just went home with my wife. You're so absurd. Your brain is like a watermelon with all rotten soup and water. You look just like a fool. Having an old beast like you as a dad really opened my eyes. Lin Tianba instantly went mad with, "You little bastard, I'm your father. How dare you talk to me like this?" Jiang Nan and Jiang Bei ask her, "Who's the real boss here? Calling me a bastard, are you spitting shit or taking a dump when you talk? Even your name sounds like a joke. Don't call yourself Lin Tianba. Call yourself Lin Wangba." With that, you hung up and blacklisted the entire Lin family. Just wait and see. I'll deal with you tomorrow. Tomorrow, then. In a few days, I'll make you understand who's the... Fubo was utterly shocked. He could never have imagined that the young master of the Lin would fall out with his... Moreover, what did the young master just say? Went home. Fubo was almost moved to tears and personally brought another bowl of... After dinner, you lay in the villa, scrolling through your phone. I really want to be close to my wife and thinking about it. You picked up your phone, searching for that chat history. It was all transferred, but you had never accepted any of them. In the Luoshi Group's high-level meeting room, every executive was silent and on edge. They always felt like they were... If it weren't for the excellent benefits of Luo, they would have left long ago. And today, President Luo's expression was so cold. Luo Yao finished using the pen in his hand, his mind filled with mirth. This afternoon, his assistant reported that Liu Ruxue wanted it. Liu Ruxue had been interning of Luoshi Group during the summer. This was, of course, arranged by Luo. He had already fully controlled the movement of everyone connected to Ling, especially Liu Ruxue. Yesterday, Ling Ran went to see, and today he received a message from about the internship certificate. This meant they were about to start. Luo Yao was already whether to make her disappear forever. If Liu Ruxue were gone, would you still break down? Or would you stay? He didn't dare to. A particularly watched WeChat notification sound. Luo Yao picked up his phone. Then all the executives saw Luo Yao, who was as cold as ice, gradually smile. President Luo is actually... What kind of message has such power? This concludes today's meeting. This month's bonus will be increased by... After saying this, Luo Yao stood up and leaving behind a group of... The boss suddenly appreciated their work and even gave them a bonus. This was too incredible. Luo Yao walked all the way back to his office, his eyes never leaving his phone screen. His assistant, Liu Meng, was shocked. The person capable of causing an emotion. Could it be young Master Lin? Sitting in his office, Luo Yao stared at the words in the mess, unable to calm down. I miss you. When will you come back? After thinking for a moment, Luo Yao replied. Luo Yao turned to his assistant and said, you handle the remaining work. Liu Meng was shocked. All right. President Luo is actually leaving. Oh my God. On the way home, Luo Yao received a message from the butler. Had sent Luo Yao a detailed record of Lin with the Lin family earlier. Seeing it, Luo Yao's eyes lit up. If his employees saw this scene, their eyes would surely widen. Aran mentioned the private villa in his wife's family's estate. Upon receiving the message, heading to the kitchen, you decided to make dinner for Luo, as it was the most you could do for him at the moment. Seeing Lin Ran about to cook, the chefs and servants in the villa were... The kitchen is considered a dangerous, and if Lin Ran were to get even, they would all be in trouble. Everyone knew how much Miss Luo cared for Mr. Even if Mr. Lin accidentally... The blame would be on not on Mr. Lin. But no matter how much you remained unmoved, it's fine. I just want to make dinner for Luo Yao, not take your jobs. It's fine. I just want to make dinner for Luo Yao. I'm not taking your jobs. The head chef was almost in tears. This isn't about the job. It's about safety. If anything happens to you, I won't be able to live either. You thought for a moment. How about that? You watch me from the side. If I mess up, you can step in. Will that work? The head chef thought about it and reluctantly agreed. Watching your skilled knife work and cooking the chef was slightly amazed. A young master like Lin, accustomed to actually knew how to cook. Luo Yao came home. Seeing no one in the living, he immediately headed upstairs. Pushing the door open, his expression instantly turned cold. No one's here again? Did Aran run away this time too? Fubo, along with all the household bodyguards and servants. No one again? Aran, why can't you just behave? Luo Yao took out his phone and opened an unknown app. The tracker showed the location was still. While Luo Yao was puzzled, Fubo hurried over from the kitchen. Miss, you're back. And Aaron? Young Master Lin is... He said he wanted to cook for you himself. Luo Yao was stunned for a moment, then slowly regained her normal expression. Fubo wiped his sweat, thinking, good thing I spoke, or I might not be alive anymore. Miss, young Master Lin is almost done. Please head downstairs. Luo Yao coldly nodded, changed clothes in her bedroom, and then headed to... You asked the servants to bring the dishes to the... and followed them out of the... Then you saw Luo Yao. For some reason, at the moment you saw Luo Yao, you felt an unparalleled joy, as if you were witnessing the most beautiful... It was a feeling you'd never had before. You opened your arms and walked toward... Luo Yao just stared at you blankly. She walked over and hugged him, then kissed his forehead lightly. Let's go home. I'll cook and we'll eat together. All right. Luo Yao's eyes sparkled with stars. Is this what it feels like to have our? Could he really not be pretending? Thinking about it, it seemed unlikely. Her expression turned cold again. After Luo Yao sat down, you sat in the seat next to her. You lit the candles you had prepared earlier, then instructed the servants to this move. Left the butler Fu Bo and the other servants. In the past, you always sat as far away as possible. Because of this, Luo Yao replaced the luxurious dining table with a smaller one. But now you sat right next to Luo Yao, even lighting romantic candle. This was a significant change. Luo Yao scooped up a bowl of beauty, and so did you. Then you quietly watched Luo Yao, elegantly ladling the soup you had personally made. She brought it slowly under the dim, romantic candle. Luo Yao looked even more captivated. Her stunning beauty seemed endless to behold. Luo Yao looked at you and said, "What are you looking at?" "You are beautiful," you replied. Luo Yao is more beautiful than plum blossoms and Liu Ruxui's water-like charm. You continue, "I must have been Shakespeare, because how could such a stand before me unnoticed? Now that I can see clearly, I want to look at you forever. I deeply regret not noticing your beauty earlier. Luo Yao smiled more brightly as she listened to your words. "Feed me," she said. Looking at Luo Yao's tender lips, you swallowed hard. "All right," you said, scooping up a spoonful and gently bringing it to Luo Yao. Looking at her inviting lips, you fed her gently and tenderly. This feeling made Luo Yao very satisfied. She gradually became infatuated. "Are you really not lying to me? Even if you are, I'll accept it." The meal lasted a long time. The two of them ate from the dining room. Just as Luo Yao straddled you, the phone rang. You glanced at the caller. "A goddess." You cursed silently for missing this one. Naturally, Luo Yao also saw. The air immediately dropped. You hung up the call and leaned in to kiss Luo Yao, but the phone rang once more. Just as you were about to hang up again, Luo Yao's voice rang out, "Answer it." 1,000 curses rushed through your mind. "Li Ruxe, you better behave, and not say anything to upset my wife." You answered the call. "Lin Yuan, where are you?" "I'm with." Before you could finish, Luo Yao's domineering aura overwhelmed the space. "What's that sound?" "Lin Yuan, talk to me. Who was the woman who took you away that day?" Just as you were about, Luo Yao interrupted with a provocative question. "Who is the woman you love the most?" "I only love you." What followed was a sound unlike any other, a sound Liu Ruxia was all too familiar with. Panicked, she shouted, "Lin Yuan, why is there a woman's voice beside you?" Caught between two women, you felt like swearing, so you pushed Luo Yao away. That action almost ignited Luo Yao's explosive. "I'm with my wife," you said. "If you've got nothing important, if you do, drop dead." After saying that, you were enveloped by Luo Yao again. Then an even sharper sound echoed in your ear. It was a sound of delight, full of provocation and disdain. Liu Ruxia couldn't take it anymore. "Lin Yuan, I didn't expect you. I was wrong about you. You've let me down." With that, she hung up the phone. Luo Yao smiled. As time passed, you experienced the real Luo Yao. You cursed yourself for being blind, deaf, and in the previous life, Luo Yao always held the upper hand. Who would have thought it would be the same? Even though you're supposed to be the man, Luo Yao was very satisfied with your attitude toward Aaron. "I'm so scared. I'm afraid you'll turn around and leave me tomorrow. So even if you're lying to me, can you keep lying forever?" Your heart ached. Even if Luo Yao thought you were lying to her, you were willing to continue. What kind of twisted love was this? "Luo Yao, whether you believe it or not, I will always stay by your side. We'll keep going like this. Trust me, okay?" Luo Yao's eyes glistened with tears, but she knew she couldn't cry. In this world, everyone else could cry. Only she could not. In the morning when you woke up, Luo Yao was gone. Does this girl even need to sleep? After breakfast, you headed to a dressing room you had never entered. It was filled with luxury. You had never even glanced at it because you didn't want anything from Luo Yao. But now, you belonged entirely to Luo Yao. So this soft life was yours to embrace. Each piece of clothing was like a work of art. You picked out something that looked decent and looking at yourself in the mirror, you realized how true the saying, "Clothes make the man." The only flaw was your messy hair. After some thought, you sent a message to Luo. Now, no matter what you did, you wanted to report it to Luo Yao. It wasn't out of fear of her, but rather to care for her emotions. In the eyes of outsiders, she was cold and unyielding, but you knew how sensitive her heart truly was. "Wife, I want to go out and get a haircut. Then I'll stop by the Lin family to pick up some." Before long, Luo Yao replied to your message. "I'll have a stylist come to the estate." "Sure." Meanwhile, on the other end, Luo Yao stared blankly at her phone. She liked being called wife. After thinking for a moment, she changed your name in her Soon, the stylist arrived at the estate. "Fubo, may I borrow a car?" Fubo smiled. "Young Master Lin, you must be the cars in the garage are all their gifts from Miss Luo." You suddenly remembered that Luo Yao had given you many things before, but back then, you never even looked at. The wardrobe storage was filled with property deeds, car titles, and even a black card with an unknown credit limit. All right, then, Fubo, please arrange a few bodyguards for I have some errands to run. Understood, young Master Lin. Entering the garage, you found it more extravagant than any luxury car. You picked out a Koenigsegg? You had never even seen such a luxurious. Now you could actually drive it out for a fight. An ultra-luxury convoy was driving through the streets. All other cars on the road quickly moved out of the way. Following close behind you was Fubo's car. He could not afford to let you escape again, especially after realizing how important you were to Miss Luo. You were someone who could bring a smile to her face. He couldn't risk losing you. Not long after, you parked the car steadily outside the Lin. With 10 bodyguards you stormed into the villa. At that moment, inside, a family of 3 was chatting and laughing. Suddenly, the villa door was broken open with immense force. You old bastard, your father has come. Hearing the familiar voice, the 3 people inside froze. Seeing Lin Yuan, Lin Tianba instantly flew in. He stood up and pulled out a 7. You little brat, how dare you? If you don't kneel and apologize I'll beat you to death. However, before Lin Tianba could take action, a group of bodyguards rushed out from behind. They pinned Lin Tianba to the ground. This move shocked Ling Jian and his mother. Brother, you're back. I missed you so much. I heard you were kidnapped. I was so worried and thinking about rescuing you. But brother, why did you bring outsiders to bully us? Dad, please let go of my dear dad. Xiaoran is back. Please let go of your father. He's been so worried these past 2 days. He was constantly in contact with the kidnapped. You glanced at them with an unreadable expression. Ling Jian and his mother were all. Lin Tianba was furious. You little brat, let me go. I am your father. You squatted down slowly, pulled out the 7 wolves belt from his hand, and turned it around. Using the buckle, you whipped it hard. A scream echoed. Lin Tianba's head was bleeding. He was completely dazed. From now on, don't claim to be. And every time we meet, you must kneel and bow. Otherwise, I'll beat you just like today. As Lin Tianba screamed in agony, Ling Jian and his mother were dumbfounded. You beat him until you were tired, stretching your muscles. Then you slowly turned to Ling Jian. Ling Jian and his mother met your gaze. They weren't afraid. Instead, there was a hint of you spoke calmly. Lawyer Shu, take care of the rest. With that, you slowly went upstairs, returning to your storage room. The world-class Shu Kai followed you from behind, handing a document to Lin Tianba, who was still waiting. What is this? Lin Tianba asked. This is the document to officially sever ties with Mr. Please sign it. Lin Tianba was stunned. He couldn't calm down for a long. When you came downstairs again, Lin Tianba still hadn't signed it. Seeing you holding a suitcase, he suppressed his overwhelming anger and, are you serious? You nodded. What do you think? Lin Tianba laughed in anger. Ha ha! Fine, fine. Remember this, you will never return to the Lin family. Even if you kneel and beg me, I won't recognize you as my son. You laughed too. Deal. Fuming with rage, Lin Tianba angrily signed his name on the document. Ling Jian and his mother exchanged, revealing a meaningful smile. You put away the document, looking at the sorrowful yet amused face, and found it fun. Oh, by the way, I'm also taking the shares in Su Ran Group were left to me. You won't get a single cent from me. This statement shocked everyone. They seemed to suddenly remember the existence of the unfilial son Xiaoran. What are you going to do with all those shares? Transfer them to me unconditionally right now. After you graduate from college, I'll return them. Lin Jian said, yes, brother. Dad is the chairman. Let him hold the shares for now. It will give him more authority in the company. Liu Mei chimed in. Xiaoran, listen to your father. Transfer the shares to his name. Let him manage them for you. You nearly vomited. How had you never noticed how disgusting this family was? Shaking the severance document, you said, we're just strangers. You insulted, so I'm very angry. As a form of self-defense, I had to hit you to vent my anger. This remark, even lawyer Shu Kai standing nearby looked off. Spare them. Don't beat. Soon, everyone was battered and bruised. Liu Yumei and her son were no longer as composed. They began cursing at you. You ungrateful. I'm your mother. I raised you for so many years and you let people hit me? You're nothing but a traitor. Brother, don't let them hurt me. It hurts so much, you sneered. My mother's name is not Liu Yumei, and you're not my brother. I don't have a brother. Lin Tianba, as the so-called father, began to plead. Please make them stop. Daddy was wrong. Don't hit Daddy anymore. Have some dignity. Who's the real father here between us? Lin Tianba, in agony, gritted his teeth and said, You're the A smirk played on your lips. Since we've severed ties, there are a few things to. When I was 13, my mother passed away, leaving me 30% of Su Ran Group's shares. Now I'm 23 years old. The dividends from Suran Group over these 10 years. I've checked the company's financial. You owe me 300 after hitting you today based on the highest treatment standards of a. I'll compensate you. Over these 10 years, I've only spent 18, so you still owe me 299,970. Remember to transfer. Lin Tianba stared in shock. What? Where am I supposed to get? That's not my problem. All my money has been spent by you. My lawyer will follow up with you. If you can't pay, I'll send you to. Lin Tianba roared in fury. Ungrateful child. Haven't I provided for you all? You chuckled. Didn't we just settle the account? The day after my mother passed, you brought your mistress home. From that day on, you gave me 300 yuan until I turned 18. You gave me 18,000 and I haven't spent a single cent. Lin Tianba was stunned. He hadn't expected that Lin Ran had only spent such a small amount of. Surely, over the years, your living expenses. You sneered. I ate at school. Even when I ate at home, I was cheaper than a house. After cooking, I was often punished. I wore school uniforms. Before 18, I never bought any clothes. The clothes I wore after turning 18 were bought with. If that's then consider it child abuse. Lin Tianba was completely. Stop standing there. The dividends must be paid in. If even 1 cent is missing, my lawyer will. And I'll add a child abuse charge on top. With that, you turned and left, leaving behind the villa's inhabitants. Feeling refreshed, you left the villa. You noticed a pink bicycle parked at the door. It was your old means of transportation, bought with money you. Meanwhile, their tools were luxurious cars worth millions. As for why the bicycle was pink, it was because Liu Rusui liked pink. But Liu Rusui had never even ridden the bicycle. You shrugged and got into your car, driving to Huating Plaza, the most famous luxury mall in Kyoto. Once inside, you were shocked. An ugly bag for perfume for 38,000. Would a pile of dog poop also cost 80? Although you were born into. You'd never shopped here before. The Lin family never gave you any. Before you turned 18, they gave you 300 yuan a month. They gave you nothing. Thinking back, you felt disgusted at yourself. Looking at your phone's balance of only you fell silent. This was all saved from working a summer job and doing various part-time gigs. Originally, you planned to buy a bag for Lu. Now you decided to get a gift for Luo Yao. You just hadn't expected. The things here are so expensive. You had no intention of using the black card. It's not about pretend. It's because for Luo Yao's gift, you wanted to use your own money. Seeing your awkwardness, the store clerks began to ignore you. At that moment, a manager walked over. Young Master Lin, did something? Should we package the whole store for you? Shook your head. No need. For Luo Yao's gift, I want to use my own. You finally chose a bracelet, priced exactly at 13,000. After paying, the store clerk gave you a polite smile. Taking the bracelet, you imagined how it would look on Luo Yao. Luo Yao, this is my first gift to you. Although it's not expensive, it's everything I have. When I earn more money in the future, I'll give you the best things in the world. Suddenly, you felt, according to typical novel plots, something bad should happen. Just then, you heard Liu Rusui's familiar. Your face immediately darkened. Damn it. If Luo Yao sees this, won't I get beaten again? What you didn't know was that Luo Yao, who had just was already rushing over. She was hurrying on her way over.